Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Breakdown with your host, myself, Big Nick. So, a couple announcements. For starters, we're going to be starting a new thing on Instagram, especially for the time being there's not a lot of sports going on right now. We're all kind of dying for something to talk about, things to watch, games to play, etc., stuff like that. So we'll start something on Instagram where I'll have a question posted every day or every other day, and I'll let you guys answer. It won't be a poll type of question like we've been doing. It'll be yours, for example, if you had one shot, you need one basket in the last 10 seconds of the game, who would you take, something like that. What quarterback would you want right now in the last 2 minutes of the game, to go get you 6 points, stuff like that along those lines. So that'll be fun, and then you guys can send in your answers to me, and I'll announce, how you guys answered, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. It'll be something fun for us to do where we could all kind of debate and argue about why we chose this person or, why we didn't. So that'll be fun to do. For especially, like I said, the time being, we don't have a lot of sports to talk about, but we do have news. I went a little fashion today, brought out the red jacket. Hope you guys don't mind. A little less professional, a little more casual on my part today. So we'll hop right into it. Our main discussion today is going to be the Colin Kaepernick situation. And we're hearing a lot of reports that he's going to be back in the league. He's going to be playing this season. And we're not sure what team he'll be playing for yet. We're not sure any of the details. We're not sure if he even will be playing. But the rumblings are back. Kaepernick is back in the news. And so that's definitely a top story. And we'll also be talking quick NBA playoffs. Not going to get too much into it, not going to give predictions and, that type of stuff yet, because we still do have regular season games to be played, so we're not sure what the matchups are going to be. I have an itch on my forehead, I'm sorry guys, but we're not going to know what the matchups are yet for the playoffs, and with that being said, we don't know who's going to be healthy and stuff like that. It's too far away, but it's going to be fun, Today's a good show. We finally have some news, so I don't need to give you guys just my predictions or, rank people or whatever. Not that that's not good, but we have live news. Sports are slowly starting to come back. We're slowly getting things back, so that's going to be our two main stories, and then I'm going to really touch up on one thing at the end. One number that really caught my eye this week when I was scrolling through my app, the Action Network, and I was just looking at some things, messing around, and one thing really caught my eye, and I'm going to give you guys kind of a free pick that I don't see how it loses. I really don't. I don't see how this one loses, guys. This is a kind of a gimme to me, so you guys can shoot over to Vegas, or your local sports book and put this in. But we'll dive right into it right now. Like I said, listen, the top story is Colin Kaepernick. You know what? We'll get into that. Let's start on the NBA. I wanted to run one thing by you guys. This might be the biggest year. And I know it's a weird type of season. It's definitely an odd situation right now for, all the guys in the league, especially the top guys, because a lot of them feel like they kind of had a traditional season stolen from them, which I completely understand. I get where they're coming from in that sense. But for a guy like LeBron, who's been there, done that, it's not going to matter as much at the end of the day. It's really not going to matter as much. Even a guy like Kawhi, he's got 2 rings under his belt. It's different. It's a different type of feeling when things like this happen, when things out of the ordinary happen. But one guy I do want to focus on, who I think really, and this might be a crazy take. I don't know if you guys are going to agree with this. I don't know what's going on, guys. I got this itch on my forehead. It's been just from the start right now. It's bothering me. Don't know what's going on there. I'm human too, so I'm going to try to ignore it. Sorry about that. But yeah, this playoffs, I think, is on the back of Giannis Antetokounmpo more than anybody else in the league. And that's not me trying to, make a hot take out of it or, put him down, because I know how great he is. But, guys, we're starting to raise questions if he is going to be the next LeBron. And that's what he's chasing, and I know that might be crazy because most of us, including myself, don't think that he is the next LeBron or even close for that matter. But from a skill set, way to look at it, Giannis definitely has the tools besides shooting, to be LeBron. He's a freak athlete. He's a freak athlete, and he can put a team on his back. We know he can do that over an 82-game season. We've seen it happen this year. But the problem I have with Giannis is he's young, but he's been in the league for 7 years. And here's my issue. Not a lot of signature playoff moments. Not a lot. And you look at what he has this year, and a lot of years he came in as the 7 seed one year, and I believe he lost to Boston in a very tough series, so you're not going to put that on him. When he comes in as a lower seed, it's completely understandable. I mean, as a younger guy and stuff like that. But this year, when you're the favorite, the second favorite after LA, when you're the favorite in the East and everyone's looking at you and everyone's trying to beat you, guys, I mean, it really comes down to one thing. He needs to get to the finals. He can't have one of these lackluster where you're just like, oh, like last year when we have our hands on our head and we're like, Giannis up 2-0 against Toronto. Looks like they might sweep. Next thing we know, Toronto wins 4 straight games, gets to the finals, wins the NBA championship. That can't happen anymore. That cannot happen anymore. When LeBron James was 22 years old, he made his first final appearance. He got swept to a great team full of Hall of Famers in the Spurs. But he was 22, guys. 22. Giannis is 25, and he doesn't have a signature playoff moment. And that's just the truth. A lot of these guys have signature moments in the playoffs. Not Giannis. So before we go ahead and put him in this crazy category, he needs to step up in a big moment. It can't be a regular season game, on TNT against the Pacers or whatever. A good team, but nothing. And Giannis, scores 40 points and, has 15 rebounds. I mean, yeah, that's a classic game for his career, sure. But, that's not what makes you a great. It's not. That's what can make you a numbers great. Maybe like a Russell Westbrook type of guy. But then what the knock on Westbrook always will be. He didn't get it done in the playoffs. He didn't get it done in crunch time. So we know that. And that's, listen, not every guy can do that. But what's the knock on James Harden? James Harden's unbelievable. James Harden can be an MVP every year, just no problem. Yeah, I'll lead the league in scoring, whatever. But what's the knock on James Harden? The knock on James Harden, as we all know, is when he gets to the playoffs, he seems to disappear. What's the knock on Steph Curry if he has one? Now, Steph Curry's a little different. He played with the greatest teams. I mean, we all know, especially when they bring in Kevin Durant, It's not even a competition anymore. But what is the knock on Stephen Curry? What's the one thing you can say about him? No finals MVPs. What's his signature playoff moment? Doesn't have one. What shot can you point to? What shot can you point to in Steph Curry's career where you're like, that's his shot? That will be seen forever. He doesn't have it. In fact, in the playoffs, he's 0 for 9 on shots that would have or could have sealed the game. 0 for 9. And this is our greatest shooter of all time. This is our greatest shooter of all time who we're talking about, and he's 0 for 9. So, Giannis really needs to step up in this playoffs, and I think this season actually helps him, quite honestly. I think it does, because, listen, if you're Giannis and you have this chip on your shoulder, the last thing you want to do is catch yourself down in a series and go to Boston. And I think about teams in the East. I think about going to Boston. Miami to a lesser degree. To a lesser degree, of course. But even Toronto. Even Toronto we saw last year. It gets rocking up there, And I think this helps him maybe, the Orlando situation. He can kind of stay composed, stay calm. He can play his game almost like it's a regular season atmosphere to maybe get this title appearance, under his belt. And that's what's crazy. Listen, he's only 25, so this can be a bad take, and he can get booted round 1 this year. Something crazy happens, and then the next 3 seasons he wins the championship. So this, I know he's young. It's not like his career is over this year, but you see what I'm saying? When you want to talk about a great all-time guy, we got to get going now. Now you're 25. Now you've been in the league 7 years. You've been in the league 7 years, Giannis, and you don't have that moment. You don't have that moment. And not everyone's as blessed as Steph Curry to play with great teams, to get bailed out in one finals by Andre Iguodala, to have Kevin Durant come to town and win 2 more with you. Not everyone has that. So if Giannis wants to be that guy, it's one or two things, quite honestly. You either win it this year, you put the team on your back, and you get it done, or when you hit free agency in a year, you go to a very bad team, quite honestly. Probably a big market. Honestly, hey, listen, maybe you go to the Knicks. And not because I'm a Knicks guy, but that would be the other option of greatness. Giannis signs with the Knicks in free agency, or a team like them. Really not a lot going on. You put that team on your back and make a few straight finals appearances, or win a finals. Okay. You've earned it. We'll all shut up. You're an all-time great. You are an all-time great now. But I don't know if he's going to do that. I don't know if he might be, and a player would never admit this, especially a player so competitive like him, but maybe he's starting to think in his head, maybe I should join greatness. Maybe I should. And let's be honest, guys, even the great ones do this. We saw LeBron. We'll never know, but he couldn't win one in Cleveland before he did eventually when he came back, but he might have said in his head, that's why I'm going to Miami. I don't know if I can win one alone with nothing. We see Kevin Durant. He blows a 3-1 lead. He loses in the finals. He probably says in his head, I'm going to go to Golden State and win a few because I don't know if I ever will get one down here in Oklahoma City. And if Giannis gets bumped this year and the next, I'd say that. Listen, small market team in Milwaukee. You're not going to attract these huge, big name guys. You're just not. It's the truth. And he might say, I can't win one here. But he also might say, I don't want to go to New York. I'm not sure if I can win one there. You know? We may see Giannis sign with Golden State. I'm going to go play with Steph Curry. I'm going to go play with Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins. We might see him go to Miami. I'm going to go play with Jimmy Butler. We might see him go to Philly, Boston. You know? Hey, the Lakers. LeBron will be 37 at that point. He's on his way out. Play it out with AD. So we don't know. We really don't. I think this playoffs, though, is on him more than anyone. It has to be. A close second, James Harden. And Russell Westbrook. I'll give you, they go hand in hand, I would say. Because, as we all know, that's their knock. Both of them. Both of them, honestly, together when they were in Oklahoma City. Couldn't win. Now you're together. Again. But I would put them even a little bit behind Giannis because Giannis, listen, as much as we love our James Harden, our Russell Westbrook, we don't get LeBron comparisons with them. And whether you agree Giannis is even in the same ballpark as LeBron, he's a freak talent, guys. He's probably the closest thing with Durant, to that category. We don't look at our Russell Westbrooks and our James Hardens like that. Offensively, of course, James Harden's probably the best, but we don't look at them all around as that. And there's nothing wrong with that. We just don't. So, when we look at Giannis, people do. There's rumblings of debate. There's rumblings of, is he the next LeBron? How many titles will he win? And I think that, first of all, it's crazy we talk about a guy like that with such high praise who can't shoot a three. Just my take. Just my opinion. This is a shooter's league. The guy can't shoot. He can't shoot from long range. We're talking about him being the next great. And I know he's getting better at it. He's hit some this year. So, that's changing. But 27, he'll be a free agent. He's 25 now. 7th year. We got to get rolling, Giannis. We got to get rolling, Giannis, It's time. You got to make that splash. You have to have that significant playoff run, game, shot, series, when you just put the team on your back. Has to happen soon. You can't get one when you're 30, and maybe one more when you're 35, and be considered an all-time great. You can be, of course. I mean, we have all-time greats who never even won a title. But to be in that range, to be in the LeBron range, where I know he wants to be. He believes he can be there. A lot of people do. If you ask a lot of people today, and they did a poll on this on Fox Sports, if you ask a lot of people today who they'd start their team with, obviously not now, but both being young, entering their prime, Giannis or LeBron, people answer the question and say, Giannis. So this isn't like a crazy, groundbreaking, discussion. This playoffs is on Giannis more than anyone else. Not the Bucks. Not Chris Middleton. Not Brogdon. Not DiVincenzo. Name your Milwaukee Buck. It's not on them. No. This is on Giannis. This is, you put the team on your back. You just had 5 months off. Of course, the rest of the league did too, but you're the 1 seed. You just had 5 months off. It's time. 7th year in the league. Put the team on your back. Let's get to the finals. And that's where we're at with that. And we'll get more into the NBA playoffs, more into our predictions, more into what's going to happen as it gets closer. But I just wanted to get that off my chest. I think the most pressure is on him. The most pressure is on him. But our main story tonight, Colin Kaepernick back in the news. And listen, however you feel about Colin Kaepernick, whether you dislike him, whether you like him, it's not about that on this show. We're not going to get into any of that. All I will say, though, is this. Colin Kaepernick deserves a job in the NFL. He does. Anybody who says he didn't lose his job because of taking a stance, he lost his job because he's a bad quarterback. Come on. You're lying to yourself. You're embarrassing yourself. You know it's a lie. Is he a starting quarterback in the league? Probably not. I would say no. Is he a second-string quarterback in this league? Yeah, and a damn good one. Yes, he is. It's not like he's the 20th best backup in the league. No, he's a top 7 backup in the league, probably, guys. You see a lot of reports that, he would be the best backup in the league. That's not true. I'm not ready to, First of all, 3 years out of the league, a lot of rust. There's going to be a lot of weak spots. You might catch him on Twitter being, a meme. He might make a couple bonehead plays where you're like, what happened here, That's going to happen, though. A lot of rust. 3 years removed from the league, that's anybody. Is he the best backup in the league? No. I'm not ready to say he's better than Andy Dalton. I'm not ready to say he's better than Joe Flacco. And it goes on. Listen, I'm not ready to say he's better than Tua Tagovailoa. Quite honestly, I'm not ready to say he's better than Marcus Mariota. I'm not. But, guys, to say he shouldn't be a backup quarterback in this league, it's not true. He got blacklisted from the NFL. The owners didn't like the stance, or not necessarily didn't even like it. They didn't want to be headlines in the news for it. And that's why he didn't get signed. It wasn't because of his play. Yes, he was falling off. He's not a Pro Bowl quarterback. Like I said, he's probably not a starting quarterback. But this is a guy who went to the Super Bowl and quite honestly led for a lot of the game. Should have been a Super Bowl champ. You're telling me he can't get a job. I'm about winning. And he produced. He's won. He's won big. We talk about a lot of top quarterbacks in this league who only have one Super Bowl appearance. So does he. Now, that team was very good, but Colin had his moments. It wasn't like a Rex Grossman type of deal when he took the Bears to the Super Bowl that year, and he was bad. He wasn't a good quarterback where he had his moments where Rex really went and won them a game. He didn't have that. Colin did. Kaepernick did have those moments. So, however you feel about him, this is a guy that should be in the league. And now we're hearing rumblings. Pete Carroll says he's getting calls. He's getting calls asking about Colin Kaepernick. Now, listen. We went through this last year with Colin Kaepernick. He was going to have the tryout. A bunch of teams were coming. And for whatever reason, there was a bunch of different rumors of why. He canceled the tryout to the public, made it a private tryout with his trainers, put it on video. He stood up a bunch of NFL scouts. And I know guys like Stephen A. Smith went off on him. And we were all kind of a little confused. What happened here? So I'll say he likes to play games. That's a fact. And, that's the truth. He likes to play his games. He likes it his way. And it has to be his way or no deal. Now, that might cost him again. That might cost him a job again. It very well may. But if he does get a tryout and he doesn't kind of just ditch the owners this time, and the scouts and the coaches, if he sticks to it, does this professionally, he will have a job in this league, and it's rightfully so. I don't care where you are on your political side of it. He deserves a job in the NFL. He's a good quarterback. He was a good quarterback. Now he's a below average, decent quarterback who deserves to be a top backup in this league, to be paid like a top backup in this league. And if your guy gets hurt, he can step in and win you some games. Again, is he going to take you to a Super Bowl? Probably not. But, it comes down to that. Can he win you games as a backup? Yes. The answer is yes. The answer is definitively he's better than 20 backups in this league. 15 for sure. Why isn't he playing? We all know why. We all know why. And it's not right. It's a private league to a point, and the owners do have the right to not have somebody on their club for whatever reason they want. I get it. It's a private league. But at the same time, this is why we have things like the Players Union. This is why we have things like the media to expose actions like this. Colin Kaepernick is an NFL quarterback, If he wants to make a stance for social justice, he's allowed to do that. He is allowed to do that. Now, would Seattle be a good fit for him? Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know how that necessarily would work, to be quite honest, as far as, listen, Russell Wilson, he really puts that team on his back. We all know this about Russell Wilson. He wins with whatever he has. He's never had out-of-this-world receivers. He's never had out-of-this-world tight ends. He's never had out-of-this-world running backs. He's had good seasons from guys. But Russell Wilson makes things work. He wins with what he has. He's like Deshaun Watson in that regard. He's like Andrew Luck in that regard. He wins with what he has. If Colin Kaepernick had to step in, is that team talented enough to win with him? Maybe not. Maybe not in that division. But I see people all over Twitter, and it's like, Colin Kaepernick lost his job because he's a bad quarterback. No, it's not. That's not the reason. He lost his job because he got blacklisted. They crossed his name off before he even had a shot. And partly last year, that's his fault. I'm not here to just defend Colin Kaepernick the whole time. That was his fault last year. He probably would be in the NFL right now had he shown up to that workout and played in front of those scouts. I think they said something like 30 teams came, or 27 to 30 teams came to see him. That we didn't have an exact number. He would have a job. He wanted to play by his rules. He wanted his own thing. And there were guys in the media, again, like Stephen A. Smith, who went off on him about this. So that's his fault. So do I feel terrible for the guy if this time around it doesn't go so perfect? Not necessarily. But I will say he's good enough to be in the NFL. It says here, NFL analyst Colin Kaepernick is better than any backup quarterback in the NFL. From Mercury News on MSN.com. That's not true. That's not true. That's a news writer who's kind of looking to make a name for himself, or maybe have a hot take, or doesn't know much about the game and is writing a story, which is fine. But, that's not true, like I just said. I mean, I rattled off about 5 off the top of my head who are better than him. But that's my whole point, though, is that if there's a report like that, just a report like that, where you have an NFL analyst, probably not an NFL analyst, let's be honest, making a statement like that, or it is, but the point is, if you can make an argument that he's a top backup in the league or a top 3 backup in the league, it should be end of story. It should be get him a job. Why is he not on the field? If he's better than 25 or 20 other backups, plus another 32 third stringers that each team has, this is crazy now. That's a ridiculous number. He's got to be on the field, whether you like him or not. He has to be. And we don't always know what's true at this point with Colin Kaepernick. Listen, there's a lot going on in the news right now, a lot of social justice reform, a lot of things happening in Seattle, for example. So, I mean, there is a report right here from NBC Sports, and it says Pete Carroll is either protecting Colin Kaepernick or lying through his teeth. He could be lying. Listen, he could be. There's a lot going on in Seattle right now. He might be trying to help the guy out. He might be trying to create a buzz for him where he can get some kind of a workout, a tryout, a look. But it might not be true. Maybe he didn't get a call about Colin Kaepernick. Maybe he's helping the guy out. Maybe he likes the guy. I don't know. I'm just saying we've seen this the last 3 years. It seems like every offseason, there's always 1 week. There's always that 1 week where we're like, oh, Colin Kaepernick's back in the news. Oh, Colin Kaepernick's going to get signed. And something happens and it just never goes through. So we can't get too hung up on this, but we definitely have to keep an eye on it. This is a big story, and we're going to see a completely different league if he gets back in. It'd be the most influential backup quarterback signing probably since I was born. Because you'd have guys who don't like him on teams. You'd have guys who love him on teams. You'd have guys on teams thinking he's disrespectful. You'd have guys on teams kneeling with him before the anthem. It would be a whole different league. You would have media completely against him, completely against his teammates, completely against anyone who follows his movement. You would have media who is for it, thinks it's amazing, loves it, supports him. It would create, such a divide. I don't mean a divide I don't mean it in a negative way. I'm just saying it would create a complete, listen, it's going to be, like, for example, the Saints this year, Drew Brees made his flag comment the other day, and he apologized for what he said. With that apology, though, there's still going to be guys in that locker room, and we all know this, who look at him differently. There's going to be guys on defenses across from him who really want to get to him and hit him. There's going to be guys who don't like Drew Brees. That's just the truth. That's just the truth. We're all human beings. Let's be honest about it. And the same would go for Colin Kaepernick. And it would be, listen, chaos is great if you're in the media. If you're in the media, whether you're announcing, whether you're taking questions from players after games, or asking questions rather, whether you're doing what I'm doing, you have like a show, a podcast, whether you're on sports radio, it doesn't matter. Chaos is awesome for the media. We always root for chaos, any kind of it, because we have stuff to talk about, which is why it's so hard right now during the coronavirus pandemic because we have no juice. There's no juice to really grab onto. There's no story that we're just dying to talk about. That would be a story. And that would be a story every week. Because every week somebody against Kaepernick or somebody in support of Kaepernick wouldn't be able to keep their mouth shut. And that's fun. And that's what the media loves. And that's not a bad thing. Listen, Colin Kaepernick on Fox, on The Herd, says it all the time. I believe he actually uses that word. I think he says chaos is great. He says, I root for chaos. And he couldn't be more right. He couldn't be more spot on when he says that. It's stories. It's a juicy story to talk about. People are interested. So that's what we're rooting for. That's what we're rooting for. As far as a media standpoint, that would be great. And honestly, it would be nice to see the guy play football. Really. It'd be nice to see the guy play football. Again, you're talking about a guy who went to a Super Bowl. Put the politics aside. Whatever side you believe. This isn't a presidential debate. It's a Sunday when we're all, with our friends, eating wings, having beers, hanging out, watching football. Keep it there. And then let the chaos happen, as far as media and the other players, and they're going to chirp each other on interviews, and, let that happen. But enjoy your football. Root for good football. Root for the best guys to be on teams. It's that simple. Root for the best players to be on the field. Put aside everything else. And Colin Kaepernick deserves a job. End of story. So you should root for him to be on a team. It's that simple. Say he does sign with Seattle. And off the top of my head, I don't know who Seattle's backup is. But my point is, Russell Wilson gets hurt. Would you rather see Seattle lose 5 straight games and just no story, no interest in that division? That they play the Niners twice and the Rams and Arizona. They just get smoked. Or would you rather competitive football? Would you rather Colin Kaepernick come in? The Kaepernick controversy. Here he is after 3 seasons removed. And he wins a couple games. Listen, come on. If you're a football fan, that's what you're rooting for. If you're a football fan first, that's what you want. So we'll move on. We'll get more into it as that develops, as he, talks to more teams, as more news comes out about that. We'll get more into it, and we'll see, who's really buzzing about signing Colin Kaepernick. But for now, we'll leave it at that. And I don't want to talk away this whole show. I want to keep it, I want you guys to be interested in what I'm saying. So we will move on for the time being. This, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, oh man, this was the story that really just, I had to check this on 3 different, sources. Because I was like, this can't be right. Listen to this, everybody. The New England Patriots, okay? We've all agreed they have the last quarterback in the NFL. They have the 32nd best quarterback in the NFL. Jared Stidham, right? They didn't get a bye last year with Tom Brady. Looked terrible at the end of the year. Couldn't beat Miami in a must-win at the end of the year at home. And no weapons. I mean, the personnel is pretty good defensively and spots on offense, but no major weapons. The Bills just signed Stephon Diggs. The Jets just got a whole lot better. The Dolphins are making moves left and right. So I'm sitting here thinking, I'm thinking, the Patriots will be competitive. Like I said, everyone keeps saying they're going to tank for Lawrence. I don't think that's possible. The Patriots aren't a 2-14, 3-13, 4-12 team, quite honestly. They're not. They're not going to be that bad. They're not a 3-13 football team. With that coach, they're not. So get that out. Unless they completely give everything and trade up, forget the Trevor Lawrence thing. But I'm sitting there thinking, I'm saying, all right, I'm curious. What's the betting line for New England? And I said, we'll infiltrate Vegas into the show, We will get your sports betting information into the show. And when sports start, we're looking to dedicate probably the last 20 minutes of the show to it. Because it's interesting stuff, But I was looking, and I'm saying, okay, what's the line for New England to make the playoffs? What is the line for, yes, New England Patriots to make the playoffs? No, New England Patriots will not make the playoffs. So I came across it. 2-1 favorites to make the playoffs, guys. Minus 200, the New England Patriots are to make the playoffs. I said that's way too high. And my source here is NBC Sports. Minus 200. So I'm like, that's not right. I check another site. Minus 180. Minus 200. It was consistent. Guys, the Patriots aren't making the playoffs this year. I don't think they are. And if they do, they're like the last team to get in. And I'm sorry if that happens. But, guys, to be a 2-1 favorite, minus 200 they are. And if you know gambling lines, that's not a ridiculous line, but in this instance it is. A 2-1 favorite with Jared Stidham as your quarterback. Not a lot of weapons. Losing a lot on defense. No great receivers. No complete, dominant, out-of-this-world receivers. Brady started to take hits last year. The line might not be so great. Minus 200? They're not the favorite in the division. So I look and I say, okay, well, Buffalo's probably going to win the division. Most people agree on that to a point. And I also see a poll. And the poll is from Fox Sports, from Fox Bet. And it says, how many New England Patriot fans believe Jared Stidham will win them a championship, that he is the answer. And the vote was in the low 30s. So I'm putting all this together, and I'm like, minus 200, it's way too high. So I go, okay, let me look at New England's schedule. They must have an easy schedule. They have to. The only explanation for this line would be that the Patriots have a very easy schedule, and they're going to kind of walk their way to 9-10 wins. And I said, okay, let me bite my lip for a second. Let's see what they're looking at scheduling wise. And guys, that's not the case. This is not an easy schedule. This is a very hard schedule. They're loaded. They're loaded. It was worse than I thought. Week 1, Miami. Okay, maybe they win that game at home. Then it's at Seattle. Raiders, tough game. At Chiefs. Broncos, tough game. 49ers. Maybe you didn't hear me. At Seattle. They're not winning that game. Jared Stidham in game 2 of the season is not going to Seattle on a Sunday night. Yeah, a Sunday night and beating Seattle on the road. Nope, not happening. Chiefs. If you didn't realize, they won the Super Bowl last year. 49ers. If you didn't realize, they were in the Super Bowl last year. I mean, guys, and it keeps getting worse. At Bills, right after that. Right after the 49ers just probably that defense has a field day. on Jarrett Stidham. He goes to Buffalo the next week. Then he goes at Jets. People think the Jets are going to be tough. I don't know how tough they're going to be, but people think they're going to be tough, and it's at New York. And when I'm looking at here, as long as the schedule doesn't change as far as coronavirus, that's a Monday Night Football game. That's a loud, rowdy New York crowd in a Monday Night Football game against New England for Jarrett Stidham. Then it's at Houston. Deshaun Watson at home. Good luck again in that game. I mean, it just keeps getting... There's not really a weak spot. Home against the Cardinals. I guess maybe they could win that game. A lot of people have the Cardinals as their dark horse to be a wild card team now. But maybe they win that game. Then it's at Chargers. Again, we're not sold on quarterback with the Chargers, but the rest of the team is tough. They have a roster with a lot of personnel. At Rams on a Sunday night. Guys, it's not easy here. And then they finish up with Dolphins and Bills. But I just read you that schedule. Where do you see them as minus 200 to make the playoffs? I mean, maybe they can win 8 games. Maybe 9. So maybe they can sneak in. But not at minus 200. This is way too smelly. This might be the smelliest line preseason that I've seen. The smelliest by far. It almost makes me think, Vegas, I mean, they know they're crazy how they do it. It almost makes me think New England's going to go 12-4 and Jarrett Stidham's going to be just this superstar that nobody can stop. Minus 200 with that schedule. I can't get over it. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not even making eye contact with my camera right now because I just can't keep my eyes off this schedule. I'm trying to see. I mean, let's do it together. Seriously. And I'll even give them the benefit of the doubts on the iffy games. Let's say they split against Dolphins. So I'll give them the home one. Beat the Dolphins. Not beating Seattle. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt against the Raiders. And I think the Raiders win that game, but I'll give New England the game. Not beating the Chiefs. I don't think they're beating Denver. I don't think they're not beating the Niners. I don't think they're winning at Buffalo that game. I'll give them the Jet game, which I'm not even sure about. I'll give them the Jet game, though. Oh, Baltimore. I skipped right over that one. Baltimore. Again, a Sunday night game. I mean, Baltimore. They're not beating them. We're still at 3 wins. Houston on the road, no. Give them the Cardinal game. At Chargers, at Rams, I'll give them 1. Take your pick. There's 5 wins. At Dolphins, I gave them the other Dolphin one before. I'll even throw them another one. Say they sweep the Dolphins, whatever. And then they finish up Bills. I don't think they beat the Bills. I don't. So you're looking at 5 to 7 wins. Quite honestly, 5 to 7 wins. 8's probably pushing it. Guys, and really quickly, just so we could all double check, we'll go with the losses. I mean, Seattle lost, Chiefs lost, Broncos probably lost, 49ers lost, at Bills lost, Ravens lost, Texans lost, Rams lost. There's 8 losses right there. There's 8 right there, and I haven't even counted the Charger game, the other Buffalo game, the at Miami game, which Tua will probably be starting by then, late in the season. I'm giving them the Raider game, which I'm not even sure about. I'm giving them games, and I'm still seeing like 9 losses already. We're talking about a team who's minus 200 to make the playoffs. In other words, you have to put up money. You have to lay odds to get New England, to take New England to make the playoffs. I don't get it. For me, this is the smelliest line of the year. I would take no. I would absolutely take them not to make the playoffs. You're getting good value. You're getting about plus 160. And for guys who understand that, you're risking about $100. Your profit's about 160. Seems like an easy bet. Seems very easy to me. And again, you look at the AFC. Is it loaded? No, probably not as much as the NFC, but the Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers are tough. I look at the AFC North. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. That can be 3 playoff teams. Guys, seriously, that could be 3 playoff teams right there. And I kind of think it will be. The AFC South. Deshaun Watson. He seems to always be in the playoffs. The Colts. They're loaded. They're one of the most balanced rosters in the league. They just got Phillip Rivers. And the other team in that division was a game short of the Super Bowl last year. Whatever you want to think about Ryan Tannehill, they were a game short of the Super Bowl last year. They have a tough defense, very good receivers. The wide receivers are very solid. And as we know, Derrick Henry's the top running back in the league. A lot of people think top 3. Guy's incredible. Impossible to tackle, really. So, again, I don't see a lot of room for New England. I don't know how much sense the line makes. So it doesn't seem worth your investment. It doesn't seem worth your money to be placing your money down on that. It just doesn't at this point for me. And that could change, Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they're signing Cam Newton. Maybe there's things we don't know. So that can change. But as of right now, the way we look at New England's team, the way we look at their weapons, the way we look at their quarterback position, the way we look at their schedule, the way we look at their conference, not a lot of room. Not a lot of room for them to be a playoff team. Line don't make sense to me. But that's all, guys. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Honestly, keep the comments coming to me, whether that's criticism or a compliment. Both is honestly thankful because, we're just trying to get better each time, obviously. And I hope we are. I hope we're starting to progress as the show goes along. And like I keep promising, as sports start to begin and we start to get more news and stuff like this, we'll have more to talk about, and I'll be able to get back on a real schedule, on a solid daily and weekly schedule, so that you guys will know exactly when to tune in. But right now it's tough, obviously, with everything going on, not much to talk about. I also don't want to bore you guys. I don't want to bore you guys talking about nonsense. So when we get good stuff and when sports do begin, then it'll be fun, and we'll be able to really get on a roll. So, but definitely check in next week. We'll have a pretty hefty week, honestly, of shows. We're gonna have a lot to talk about. The MLB, they got the new proposal. I didn't bring it up this show because I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. I don't want to get my hopes up myself. But we're hearing now the commissioner says 100% baseball will be played this year. So hopefully we get a decision on that this week, and it'll be more good news in the sports world. So thanks, guys, again, and hope you enjoyed.